Okay, let's finish off B'dikas Chametz to get into Erev Pesach because there's a lot to cover yet. Okay, anyway, we learned after B'dikas Chametz you put all the Chametz away. Make sure you don't eat it, the mice don't get all over the house. And then you do Bittul. Then you put it the morning, it's like this. The morning Erev Pesach, number one, in the Shemona Esrei, you leave out Mizmor L'Seder. For the whole 8 days of Pesach, including Erev Pesach, we don't say Mizmor L'Seder. The reason quickly for that is because Mizmor L'Seder is a Thanksgiving offering. In the time of the Bais Din, people, for certain things that we today bench Gaimel for, they used to bring a korban toida, a Thanksgiving offering. That offering had 12 breads which were chametz. So therefore you're not allowed to bring it on Pesach because you can't bring a korban, that's chametz stick. Therefore you add a Pesach, you can't bring it either, because every korban that you brought had to be available to eat for the allotted amount of time. And Erev Pesach already you can't eat chametz after a certain time. So therefore Erev Pesach, 8 days of Pesach, we don't say Mizmor L'Seder. That's why we don't say it on Shabbos and Yom Tov either, because there's a private korban which was not allowed to be brought on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So therefore we don't bring a korban toida. So therefore we don't say Mizmor L'Seder. Now the morning of Erev Pesach, so he said, you don't say Mizmor L'Seder. Then you have, after davening, you have what's called the siyum for the firstborn. So firstborn person, or one that has a kid under bar mitzvah that's a firstborn boy, has to really fast on Erev Pesach. So the minhag is today that by listening to a siyum, you're listening to somebody finish a tractate of Gemara, so then, you don't have to fast. But what people have to keep in mind, that you are a bachar, until you hear the siyum, you're not allowed to eat. You can't have a cup of coffee in the morning before davening until you hear the siyum. Because you really have to fast. The siyum makes you freed from the fast.
So let's ask the question that you don't want to hear. Suppose someone doesn't have a chance to go to a siyum. At what point do they go to the Seder?
Okay, then they should ask a shaila. There's a different opinions about how much you have to fast. It's not for now. What?
If a person just does it themselves on a plane, if they go see themselves, is that good enough?
If they finish a Masechta themselves, yeah, it doesn't have to be a public one.
And you just say the Hadron and you're done.
Say the Hadron, don't say the Hadron, but yeah, then you're done.
Okay, you're just done.
Then you can break the fast.
Why doesn't that call work for the actual fast?
What?
Why doesn't the call make the siyum?
Work for Yom Kippur, you mean? This is a bid'ah to fast, and it's a lenient fast, so a siyum takes it away. Not only a siyum, if somebody has a bris out of Pesach, somebody has a bris out of Pesach, you can go to the bris and then you don't have to fast anymore. You don't need a siyum of a Masechta. In fact, the guy called me today from out of town. His wife had a baby, and the bris is going to be out of Pesach, and he can't get a moil until 12 o'clock because he's out of town. So then the question is, what do you serve for the bris? You can't wash because you can't eat matzah. You can't eat bread just after the zman. So what do you do for the meal of the bris? So the answer is you do fruit and eggs or whatever you want, but you can't have cake, you can't have bread, you can't have matzah. So that's it. That's what you do. Huh? Steaks. You're not supposed to eat too much out of Pesach. I don't think anybody's going to make steaks out of Pesach. Okay, anyway. So then you have the time that you're allowed to eat chametz until 10:49 in LA time. Then you have to get rid of the chametz. Now, when you finish, the time that you finish eating chametz, which is again 10:49 in LA, you need to make sure that if you're interested in brushing your teeth, that you have to brush your teeth and finish up all that stuff before 10:49. You can't brush your teeth after 10:49. But then you're allowed to burn the chametz, you're allowed to sell the chametz, you have to nullify the chametz before 11:54. Now, ideally, if somebody wants to cut their nails, they have to do it before midday. If they didn't do it before midday, which is 12:56 LA time, if they didn't cut the nails before midday, they can cut them after midday. But if they didn't cut their hair before midday, they can only take a haircut from a guy. They can't take a haircut from a Jew after midday and Erev Pesach. Now, Erev Pesach, the custom is, and there's people that have, where certain customs people say doesn't exist, whatever. The Chabad meaning is, we don't eat starting Erev Pesach in the morning through the second Seder of Keirach. In other words, through the sandwich of the matzah and the mortar at the end of this, in the middle of the second Seder. We don't eat any of the ingredients of the mortar or the charesis. That means, according to our custom, we don't have mortar, not Erev Pesach, not the night of Pesach, not the first day of Pesach. At the meal on the second night of the second Seder, then you can have horseradish because you finished the Keirach already. People that use lettuce for mortar won't eat lettuce, not the first day, not the night, whatever. The same thing, we don't eat the ingredients of the charesis. So we don't eat apples and pears and nuts and things like that because those are the ingredients. Well, those are put dates in. We don't put dates in. But more, the apples and the pears and the nuts, so those things we don't eat also out of Pesach. So which means in a practical sense, let's say somebody for the dessert on the first night of Pesach wants to eat applesauce. So the first night, you really, according to our custom, you don't eat applesauce at the end of the Seder because it's not Keirach of the second night yet. So you can have fruits and fruits for dessert, but you can't have that. Okay, then like this.
These are customs, not the law.
These are customs.
So you won't have for lunch next day, Sabbath?
Correct. You can have cucumber and avocado and what? People use lettuce because you peeled out the leaves. You eat it by the Seder. If it's chametzik, it's chametzik. It doesn't matter by the Seder or not. So there are people that will only eat it for the Seder. There are people that only eat it for the Seder. But technically, if you're eating for the Seder, you can eat it for the rest of Pesach. You have to peel the outer leaf. That's the peeling of it. Okay, next. One thing about this Shabbos, by the way, before we go into Shabbos HaGadol, so the custom is after Mincha we say Avodah Mayinu. The Haggadah, good part of the Haggadah is in the Siddur. Mitzvah Shabbos, there's no Vinayim and Vaad Kodesh because Yom Tov is the middle of the week. Okay, anyway, Erev Pesach, so after Mincha, you're supposed to have Mincha a little bit earlier because you have to say the Korban Pesach preferably before Shkiyah. Now, there's the first night of Yom Tov. What? Shabbat. I'm talking about our Murdi Mincha Erev Pesach. So, yeah, we're going fast. Mincha Erev Pesach, you say Korban Pesach. Now, halachically, you could daven Ma'ariv earlier. Like Shabbos, you can bring earlier. Technically, halachically, you can bring in Shavuos, you can. But Pesach, you can bring in, you can daven Ma'ariv earlier. But you're not allowed to start the Seder until Mamish nightfall. Because Shavuos, you have to 49 days of the Sfira complete, and daven Ma'ariv early, you're taking away from the Sfira. So the first night of Pesach, technically, you could daven Ma'ariv earlier, but you can't start the Seder, again, LA time, until approximately 8 o'clock. That's the earliest you really could start the Seder. So our minhag is that everything should be ready, before, except the kaida itself. The actual Seder plate, we do after Ma'ariv, right before the Seder. Now, it's also another interesting Chassidish custom, and there used to be massive fights about this. By the Chassidim, there's a minhag that you say Hallel the first 2 nights of Pesach. After Ma'ariv, you say Hallel. In the non-Chassidish world, they don't. But not only they don't, they dafka don't. There was in the time of the Alter Rebbe, there were Chassidim that became close to the ways of Chassidim. There's a Ramah that says, "Ve'ein anu noegin kein." The Ramah brings it down, he says, we're not my noeg to say Hallel the first 2 nights of Pesach. So there's a lot of stories of Chassidim that they didn't have their own shows yet, and they were davening together with the non-Chassidim, and the non-Chassidim would go home after Ma'ariv, and the Chassidim would stick around to say Hallel with the minyan, and then they found out about it, and there would be fights the next day in shul, and It was unbelievable. So the Alter Rebbe once told one of the Litvish people there in the show when they were fighting about it, he says, how do you know that that's not what the Ramah means? Maybe the Ramah brings down the minig of saying Hallel, and it says, when you say, he says, we don't do that, maybe the Ramah, you sing it differently. Maybe the Ramah says it's such a beautiful minig and it's a shame we don't do it. How do you know the Ramah said you don't do it? But there was a very big issue years ago, and this was one of the causes that made the Chassidim, tak in those days, create their own shuls with their own Bati Midrashim that they should. So it's a very big thing saying Hallel on the first 2 nights of Pesach. Okay, now when you come home for the Seder, okay, so you have to start the Seder as soon as possible, but you can't start the Seder early, before nightfall. Why can't you start the Seder before nightfall? Because by concerning the matzah, which used to be together with the korban base, but anyway, even now it's biblical. So it says you have to eat the matzah balayla hazeh, in this night. So the Torah says clearly it has to be at night. Therefore, when the Chachamim instituted the 4 cups of wine, they made it similar to the biblical mitzvah that it has to be at night. The Kiddush is one of the 4 cups. So Kiddush has to be at night. Therefore, you're not allowed to begin Kiddush before, and again, in LA time, it's not before 8 o'clock. Now, what do you do by Kiddush? Now, to preface it, it's getting a little late. All the mitzvahs of the evening, men and women are equally obligated to do. That means men have to drink 4 cups of wine, women have to drink 4 cups of wine. Men have to eat matzah, women have to eat matzah. They have to eat the morah, they have to eat the morah. They have to say the Haggadah, they have to say the Haggadah also. You can't read it with your eyes, you have to verbally say the Haggadah. Now you could say it in any language, but you have a biblical mitzvah, V'gadu Tolevincha, there has to be, and that's how the Rebbe differentiates between the Rebbe and the Haggadah, brings down that there's, the whole year you have a mitzvah of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim. L'man tizkor Yisrael Tzeicha Meretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yimei Chayachu. We say it every day after, Rabbeinu Tam's throne. So there's a biblical mitzvah every day. So what's the uniqueness of Pesach? That you have the mitzvah. So one of the differences the Rebbe explains, the Rebbe brings down from people, that a whole year, if you just remember it, it's also enough. Because it says, Man tizkor, you should remember. By Pesach, the mitzvah is V'gadu Tolevincha, you have a mitzvah, you have to say it verbally. You have to verbally articulate it. And there's certain, not now, but next week in Mishnah we'll talk about which parts of the Haggadah are mandatory that every man, woman, and child for chinuch needs to say. Now, when you have the first, let's talk about the 4 cups of wine. The 4 cups of wine, the cup has to hold a revius. How much is a revius? So it should be a little bit over 3 ounces. If you have 3 ounces cup, it's also enough. Some poskim write 4.2 ounces, but we don't hold like that. According to Avram Chaim Nod, it's 3 ounces. Some people say it's a 2.9, some people say 3.3, whatever, but 3 ounces, according to Rabbi Avram Chaim Nod, is enough, that's a share of the size the cup has to hold. Each one of the cups, you have to drink minimal, more than half the cup. Preferable is you drink off the entire cup. So it's better to take, let's say, a 3.5 ounce cup and drink the whole thing than take a 6 ounce cup and drink half. Because there is an inyan of drinking the entire cup. Now, we come back and we set up the Seder plate. Okay? Now, how do we set up the Seder plate? By the way, the typical universal Seder plate that you have Zeraya, the shank bone on the right, the egg on the left, the mar in the middle, the chareis is bottom right, the karpas in the bottom left, and then the gemara in the bottom. That is, believe it or not, the Arizal's Seder plate, which is based on Kabbalah. If you look in Poskim, the Ramah had a different Seder plate, there are different styles of Seder plates. The universal Seder plate that everybody uses today is really the Arizal's. And the reason for the Arizal's Seder plate, the way it is is because we know that you have the three matzahs, we'll discuss soon, it's Chochmah, Bina, and Das, the three levels of intellect. And then you have the plate at the bottom, which is a plate, which is the Mekabel, which is the level of Malchus. And then you have the 6 things on the Seder plate is right, left, center, right, left, center. So you have Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Chayd, Yesod. The plate at the bottom is Malchus, and you have the 3 matzahs, which is Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Therefore, according to our custom, we don't make 3 matzahs one place and the Seder plate a different place. We put down 3 matzahs on the plate, and the Rebbe writes only the head of the household needs it or whatever. But you have, some people have only the head of the household, some people do everybody. By the Rabbeim, only the Rebbe had it. But, so you have the 3 matzahs, so you have a plate, okay? You put down, let's say, a matzah, a napkin, another matzah, another napkin, another matzah, and you cover the matzah. So you have 3 matzahs separated by a napkin or a cloth, whatever it may be. Then you cover the matzahs because you don't want them to get wet. And then on top of the matzahs, you put the Seder plate. So you put the zreya, the beitza, the mortar, the charesis, karpas, and chazaris.
We don't use the plate on top, no?
Huh? You could put it, if somebody wants to use the plate on top, it's not a problem. Now, what do we use for the zreya? It's getting late. For the zreya, our custom, people use a lot of different things. But our custom is we use the neck of a chicken that's roasted, and most of the meat is removed from it. That's what we use for zreya. Some people actually use a big shank bone, but our custom, whatever right, is to use the neck of a chicken. Then for the egg, we have hard-boiled egg. There's a reason, next week, I'm not here tomorrow night, but next week we'll discuss again the reasons for each one of these things. And then you have the mortar in the middle, and then the charesis, again, the Rebbe writes, it used to have apples, pears, cinnamon, ginger, some of the Rebbe doesn't write dates, and nuts and wine. Well, wine we add later. But the Rebbe writes that cinnamon and ginger already many years we don't use because there was a problem with chametz. So basically our charesis is apples, pears, nuts, and that's it basically. And that's the charesis. Now for karpas, halachically, you have to, it's very interesting because in Al-Mishkan Aruch it says you have to eat something that you make adama on, raw. But the Rebbe writes in Haggadah we use either onion or potato, which is interesting. Potato raw, you don't make adama on it. But the Rebbe writes the minhag was to use a potato or onion. The Rebbe himself had to say the plate used onions, not potato.
So you don't boil it, you just eat it raw?
What?
The potato, you just eat raw?
No, I'm saying we use onion or they cook the potato.
If you use potatoes, you eat them raw or cooked?
No, you have to eat them cooked because you can't make adama on raw potatoes.
But it's not bitter.
Karpas doesn't have to be bitter. Mara has to be bitter. Okay. Take